Hello and welcome in the Ferdinand Hodler show in the Fondation Bayerler at Rien, Baal. My name is Ulf Küster, I'm the curator of the show. Ferdinand Hodler is by far the most famous Swiss artist, the most famous Swiss painter. He was born in 1853 and died in 1918. He got enormous fame during his lifetime. He got very rich during his lifetime, and with the exception of Switzerland, he's mainly forgotten outside, as I say, outside Switzerland. There's several reasons for that. We think he is a very important painter, a painter who should be looked at. His work should be shown, especially to an international audience. As I say, he was, before the First World War, he was very, very important. He was very, very well known. He was perhaps then the most famous artist in Europe. Anyway, we concentrate on the last works of Hodler, the last 5 years of his life. In 1913 he became 60 years. He was 60 years old, and he published a survey of his work in reproductions, and in a little room dedicated only to an introduction to the exhibition, we show a selection of these reproductions just to make clear how important Hodler as painter, as artist was up to that point when we begin, which is 1912, 1913, the last, as I say, the last 5 years of his life. During the last 5 years of his life, he concentrated on some themes which he developed new, which he got back to. One of them is the self-portrait. The self-portraits of Hodler during the last 5 years are very fascinating, because Hodler is not really concerned about how he looks or how he ages or how he feels. He's concentrating on his eyes, which look to the viewer. So we sort of assembled I think 9 self-portraits, and just made a whole gallery only with self-portraits, just to show Hodler's, I wouldn't say evil, but I would say intense eye. So his critical look, or his astonished look, or him looking as he would ask a question and all that. He wanted to make clear, he was working on making clear that the most important thing a painter has, the most important thing an artist has to work on is the eye. And the eye really, this is what is most important. Something one could be reminded at from time to time. Of course, it's quite clear, but painting or making art and seeing art has something with looking and with seeing to do. For me, in his landscape paintings, Ferdinand Hodler is the real inventor of the modern alpine view. Alpine view before Hodler is a glacier in the background, a thunderstorm, a destroyed hut in the foreground, some trees, some cows, and so on. What he does, he concentrates only on the peaks, on the mountains, on the geological structure of the mountains, and there's more or less nothing between the peaks and the viewer. That distances the landscapes in a way, but it confronts the viewer very much with the landscape is really about, the height of the mountains, the sheer sublime power of the mountains, and all that. So that is something he more or less invented, really. That was his style. He was very successful in that. He painted series and variations of several views in the Alps. On the one hand, to sell the paintings. On the other hand, because he, I think, was very much led by the thought that only the sum of all paintings gives the right and unified view of the Alps, or what it's all about, what he wanted to paint. So we exhibit in the exhibition some series. One of the series is behind me. It's a series of views on the Dent du Midi, the valley of the Rhone, dominating a group of mountains. He took them from Champéry, where he spent the summer of 1916. And we see it in different ways. On the left-hand side, it's the mountains with little mist in the foreground. In the middle, bright sunshine. To the right, sort of better weather coming up. It's only nuance, but it's variations which form a whole unified view and the total view of this part of the Alps. It's not only that he painted series, he painted single paintings, and the next painting shows very clearly that he really, of course, did realistic views of what he wanted to paint, but he was also someone who constructed his paintings very much. So it's not that he sat outside and painted in fresh air. He very often made notes and made sketches and all that. Then might have been sitting outside and painting outside, but the main work was done in his studio. So the next work is the next work we would talk about is third work over here, which in a very interesting way shows Hodler's modernism. That's a wonderful view from a point above Montreux over the Lac Léman. It's 1,700 meters high. It's really high, and it's wonderful. The painting is called Landscape with Rising Clouds. One looks on the lake and some rocks and the shore of the Lac Léman. The whole painting is geometrically constructed. It's an oval. Structured by an horizontal and a vertical. And at the same time, a colleague of Hodler, Piet Mondrian, developed his early abstract paintings like an oval as well. And that is really not very far away from an abstract landscape. One has to keep in mind this is the perfect view on Lac Léman. But it's also very much constructed, and the construction without the view is an abstract painting. Would be an abstract painting. Hodler wasn't an abstract painter, but he was clearly someone on the way to abstraction, and he was seen as that by his contemporaries. the end of his life, Hodler was living in a very posh apartment in Geneva, on the shore of the Lac Léman, and he began actually in 1916 and very intensely during the last months of his life. The first month of 1918 began sort of November 1917, with views from his balcony over the lake to Mont Blanc. This is the Mont Blanc. And he made a whole series of different views in different daylight. He chose mainly early morning before sunrise, when the contours are very visible, very clear, and everything else is just a form and color, or colored form, mainly in blue. And he was very concerned about, he thought about a lot, a way of doing limitless landscapes, eternal landscapes, planetary landscapes, as he called it himself. Thinking about the right format to do that. So he painted views which are not really limited. I think that was deliberately done to leave that edge open. And he built these views only on color. He was until then very much, or in his early career, very much a painter of lines. He was developing his paintings from the lines, from a drawing. He was a drawing painter, really. And at the end of his life, as he very often said to his friends or to his biographer, he discovered color for himself. And that is another theme our exhibition is about. The color in late Hodler, the new treatment of color in late Hodler. This room is somewhat surprising in the exhibition for many who don't know this series or this side of his work. Hodler met Valentine Gaudí-Darel in 1908. She soon after became his model, and became in 1913 mother of his daughter Paulette. And shortly after giving birth to Paulette, they discovered that she suffered of cancer. And Hodler made a very moving, one could say shockingly moving, series of the illness and the death of his lover. One has to say that she was one very long and wide row of different lovers. Apart from that, Hodler was married, and it was very scandalous, and they had to work very hard to cover these stories, or not mention it or whatever. And it's very sad, really, because she was really in love with him, and he was not really willing to accept that she would be the only one. And as I say, apart from that, he was married. Anyway, she was aware that he made works with her as subject, and that was the only way that she could keep him in her room, more or less. But she was quite aware that he would do something extraordinary. Hodler was, from his childhood on, very much surrounded by death. He lost all his siblings to tuberculosis. His father died when he was 7 years old. His mother died when he was 14 years old. Mother fell during labor, during work, doing work, on a field, and the children had to carry her home, and that was a traumatic experience which very much influenced Hodler throughout his life. And he was always fascinated by this terrible and astonishing moment of the transition between the movement of life and the total stability and stillness of death. And I think he wanted in this series he wanted to get very, very close to that moment. And she was aware that she would make that possible for him, which is surprising as well. So it is a very moving, as I say, very shockingly moving series which we exhibit here, but which is a very important part of late Hodler and his late style. He seemed to be convinced that the series influenced his style, even his landscape style, towards a more free treatment of color, and that's important for the exhibition as well. He frees himself from drawing towards a more free treatment and use of color. And perhaps we look at one of the last paintings of Valentine Gaudí Darel, showing her on her deathbed. She is seen a situation the day after her death, January 26, 1915, and she's painted like a landscape, like he painted landscapes, and she's really part of a construction, of a geometric abstract construction. She lies on horizontals. There are horizontals on top, and then these very decisive verticals, which sort of mark a beginning and an end of the painting. And that's really a symbol for this astonishing and not explainable moment Hodler was so fascinated with, the moment of death. View to Infinity is Hodler's last big figure composition. One has to has to keep in mind that Hodler was a very important monumental painter. He painted the big, very, very big format. It's a composition made for the Kunsthaus Zurich originally. That one that was too big for the people at Zurich, so he painted it anew, and there exists 5 versions. Apart from that one, we exhibit another one which Hodler kept at home all his life. So he was very, very much involved in very much, yes, he was very much interested in that work. So that's the reason why he kept it at home. Another version, not that one, that was a bit too big. That is 9 to 5 meters. It's really a very, very, very big painting. A very monumental one. It's called View to Infinity because the infinity is represented by these women, and the succession of women could be prolonged into infinity. It has something to do with the eternal female spirit or whatever, or like Goethe put it, das ewig Weibliche. And it has something to do with dance as well. Hodler's friend was a dance reformer, a very important one, called Emil Jacques Dalcroze. And it shows a slight movement to the right, a slight dancing movement to the right. So they dance into infinity. The painting is very much constructed, and Hodler was very keen on to show that. By showing the construction, he showed his own work, his individuality as painter. So he didn't care about having roughly painted that. It looks as if it was what was painted just in a few hours. The truth is that he worked on that for many, many years, and he made many, many drawings and many, many sketches, many oil sketches and preparatory oil paintings, of which we exhibit some other in the exhibition. What Hodler was doing was sort of trying to do the impossible in one painting. His all overall feelings, and he was very much, I think, influenced by the idea of the unknown masterwork, le chef-d'œuvre inconnu. This idea formulated by Balzac in the 19th century, which was very influential for painting or art in the 19th and 20th century. That the perfect work might exist somewhere, but nobody has seen it. In reality, it only exists in the head of the painter. This very impressive work, owned by the Kunstmuseum Basel, might represent this idea. I think this is very central for Hodler's work, and perhaps especially for his last work too, for his series and variations, that he really was working on the unknown masterpiece, the work which really exists only in his head. Anyway, this painting is the big final of this exhibition, and we'll be very happy to welcome you at the Fondation Bayerle. The exhibition is on until May 26. Thank you very much.